How does a person who has battled the effects of HHT reshape his active, workaholic, and stressful existence when his condition resulted in a life-altering stroke? In the next few minutes, we will explore Dan Zimmerman's journey from the person that he was when he was living life in the fast lane to the happy, well-adjusted person he has become today after a life-altering stroke. We hope it will make you aware of this disease and motivate you to support stroke victims like Dan. In 1985, Dan Zimmerman started Woodworks by Dan, specializing in cabinet and furniture making. He was based out of Fountain Hills, Arizona. Dan worked 80 to 100 hours a week building his business, and at its peak, Woodworks by Dan had 8 employees and more than $540,000 in annual sales. But life was not all work for Dan, and his company's success allowed him to enjoy the pleasures of boating and fishing whenever he was able to break away. Then, the day after Thanksgiving in 2005, Dan's life would be changed forever.
After Thanksgiving cleanup, all that good stuff, and he said that the back of his leg hurt, and I was sitting at the kitchen counter, and the next thing I know, I'm talking to him, and I turn around, and he's on the floor.
Dan was rushed to the Scottsdale Healthcare Center at the Osborne campus. He had suffered a stroke that damaged the left side of his brain and paralyzed his right arm and leg. Dan clung to life in a coma for 3 days.
Brain doctor says useless vegetable, and blacked out again.
The first time I talked to the doctors, they told me that he had 65% brain damage and that he was basically not going to be able to do anything. That if he lived through this, it was going to be a miracle in itself.
Dan was fighting for survival. Just existing was more than he could bear.
More pain, realize a stroke, but I wanted to die.
First 3 weeks was pretty tough. I would assume with Dan being heavily medicated, that anything that he experienced would have to come from his version of it, because as far as I could tell, he was in pain. He recognized me. He recognized his cousin. He recognized people that he cared about prior to the stroke. But we weren't sure in the beginning who he was going to remember and what the damage was going to be.
As Dan's condition stabilizes, the realization of his situation and fight he is in hits home. His emotional health starts to come into play.
Right side, totally dead. And mad happened to me, and I worried about the business, who runs it, and slipping the way my dreams.
But Dan would not allow himself to stay down long. Taking a hard look at his life and remembering his 2 sons, Dan Zimmerman makes the biggest decision of his life.
Decided to fight. My boys mean so much.
He's astonishing. He is blowing out their they've got the guidelines and the perimeters and where he needs to be at this time frame and da-da-da-da, and he is just excelling and superseding, because his goal was to be out of the hospital way sooner than they said, and he made it happen. I mean, he got up every day and he was motivated, and he ensured that he was going to be out of the hospital before, I think they were saying like April or May or something like that, and he said no, he would be out of the hospital out by the end of February, and then in the middle of January he pushed his release date to the middle of February.
With Dan out of the hospital, his recovery proceeded at a breakneck pace. His progress was marked with highs and lows. He was forced to close his business, and his marriage soured. But Dan continued to look for a new passion to help him continue with his recovery. Then, in 2008, he found that passion: tricycles.
I bought my first trike, and that amazing, pumping blood to my brain, and freedom. I tired, but spurred on much enthusiasm.
Dan rode every chance he could, riding with anyone who would ride with him. His health was improving daily. Then he started riding in organized biking clubs.
Go to Thursday night group ride. First meeting ever went to. People talked to me.
I first met Dan on a Thursday night brag ride, which is a PMBC bike club ride that leaves Bike Emporium at Granite Reef and McDonald every Thursday at 6:30. And Dan saw the posting, showed up, never met the guy before. He got the trike out of the truck all by himself. But I noticed when he did, he was doing it all one-handed. That clued me in that he wasn't quite your normal person. And then he explained to everybody that he'd had a stroke and that he had been told by the doctors when he did that he would never walk or talk again. And I said, well, you're doing a hell of a lot better than they thought. And he kept up with us, but he had a hard time. He was maybe 50 pounds heavier than he is now. And so he came to every Thursday night ride from then on.
Dan continued to ride more and at longer distances. His dexterity, speech, and overall health improved. He and his biking friends began making multi-day trips across country.
The first year I knew him, it was amazing. And pretty soon he started going on overnight rides. When I first overnight ride we did, that was a Not Your Mom tour that begins in October. We rode from my house up to, Cave Creek Park area. That's Maricopa County Park up near Carefree Highway. And, he made it all the way up by himself. We'd parked his trailer there the day before because he was afraid he couldn't camp because he needed an elevated bed to get in and out of. He couldn't get up off the ground very easily. So I camped the first time. And after that whole season of winter rides, we would take his trailer out before the ride and then ride to it and then ride home, and I'd help him shuttle cars to get back to pick up the trailer.
And while his strength and health was improving, his personal life was coming back together. His biking friends were a strong support network, but then Dan met and started a relationship with Sandra Perner. Sandy supported his passions and even participated in his bike outings. And now, with his life set, happy and healing, Dan begins one of the biggest challenges since his stroke.
Dan started thinking about, well, he'd like to do more. And he, looking in the internet, found out some guy doing a ride down the coast of California. That was one of my favorite rides that I've always sort of dreamt about. And so he was checking into doing that. And then finally Bill and Dana said, well, why not just do a ride across the country? And they had a route picked out. They showed it to him. It was from the San Juan Islands up in Washington State all the way down to the Florida Keys, kind of diagonally across the country. And, Dan thought that was a great idea.
To prepare for the monumental challenge, Dan spends the summer of 2013 riding in a series of organized bike rides with thousands of other bikers across the Midwest, traveling across the states of Missouri, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan, and camping and living on the road, biking thousands of miles, and after each ride, feeling stronger and more confident.
55 miles today.
55?
A lot of hills.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he's doing better on the climbs. The physical side, he's climbing fine, but the more important thing is that his attitude towards the hills, the challenge of getting up the hills, improved a great deal.
And the hard work and training continues. Dan estimates by the end of 2013, he will have triked over 7,000 miles preparing for his July 7th, 2014 departure from Washington State to Key West. The trip will be over 5,000 miles and will take over 4.5 months.
I will ride all the way. My friends drive sag vehicle, alternate sag wheel, but I ride all the way. And I hoping to make friends on along the way.
And with a task that would challenge a trained athlete, much less someone who had a disabling stroke almost 8 years ago, the question has to be asked, why?
Because I want to. Simple, but awareness, don't give up hope. I did it and managed to trike all over, and stroke survivors don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope. A message that Dan Zimmerman wants to get out to every stroke survivor. And now, the journey continues.